What's up guys, Chris here with the Polo Movement. Today we're going to share with you everything we know about the new Mercane Widewheel 2020 model. I'm sure you've seen in the last few weeks there's been speculation and clones of this model online, but we're here to break the facts. As Mercane's exclusive distributor, we were able to get a first glimpse into how the 2020 model will be different, when it will be available, and at what cost this will be on the market. We want to preface this by saying that the 2019 model was an objectively amazing scooter, and for sure unbeatable at the price point it came at. However, there were a few problems with the design and build quality. For one, during testing, we had a few units get cracks on the front suspension neck, which effectively resulted in the front wheel falling off. Fortunately, we learned how to test these frame imperfections, and we were able to resolve these units from circulation before they arrived to customers. Secondly, I'm sure you've heard about Fluid Freeride's brake caliper recall. Over 1,800 units in the US were recalled as a rear brake was not functioning properly, resulting in brake failure, sometimes at higher speeds of up to 45 km an hour. This is dangerous for obvious reasons. Once again, we were extremely lucky that these were a batch-specific issue, only affecting the US and not any of the Canadian sales. Plus, we test the brakes extensively before shipping any products out to customers, just to ensure that all brakes are working perfectly. Lastly, we've been voicing our complaints about the lack of an LCD screen on the Mercane for years now. For a $1,400 scooter, to not have a display feels cheap, in particular when one of Mercane's main selling points is the speed, and yet you don't even know how fast you're going. This brings us to the 2020 model. There have been videos and photos of the unofficial 2020 model circulating online, but our Mercane contact denied their authenticity. That said, a few of the upgrades seen in these unofficial photos are actually quite close to what we've learned so far. We should specify that Mercane did not make any photos or renderings available, as the marketing collateral is still being developed. But we do have the expected models, specs, and pricing. So let's dive right into it. For starters, we know there will be 3 different models of the 2020 model, which Mercane is calling the Widewheel Pro. The first will feature a single motor with a 10Ah battery, the second will be a dual motor with a 10Ah battery, and lastly, and most interestingly, it will be a dual motor with a 15Ah battery. This is probably for the best, as it makes no sense to have a dual motor with a tiny battery. You want the speed and the distance the full Mercane can offer. Next, we know there are also some structural upgrades. Mercane says the materials used to make the frame are now thicker. But there is also a newly designed component in which they've called a dual stem neck fork. Despite this catchy name, we suspect this is simply a 2-arm neck component that will replace the single neck one. This is great news, as we've identified this part as the most susceptible to braking for heavier riders. Next, let's talk about brakes. Mercane officially confirmed that there will be 2 brakes on the 2021 model, one in the front and one in the rear. This is definitely a good idea for a scooter that can reach up to 45 km an hour of speed, and it's honestly quite surprising that they hadn't added a second brake in the start. There are rumours that this potential brake could be a regen brake. We certainly hope so, as it could recharge the battery as you enjoy the 45 km speed on the Mercane. Moving on to a feature most of us are extremely relieved to see, an LCD display. And you can get an idea of what it looks like looking at this rendering over here. It's finally here, and while we don't have any more details about what stats will be displayed, we do expect it's going to be the usual: speed, the range remaining, the battery charge, and maybe the trip mileage. This is quite a substantial change, since the 2019 model had the very basic controller which only supplied one type of output, which was the battery voltage. So, for the 2020 model, not only features a new LCD display, but also an improved controller to supply more types of output. This isn't something that dramatically impacts the users, but it's always good to know while driving at 45 km an hour and knowing what distance exactly remains on your Mercane. Lastly, let's talk about availability and pricing. The first sample is on its way to us right now. A thorough review will be available as soon as we get it, we promise. And this means that production has already started. We expect the first batch to be available sometime in late December, early January, meaning it'll be available to you in the first weeks of 2020. As for pricing, here's what you can expect. We make a point of being as affordable as possible to get these bad boys to as many of you as possible. The single motor 10Ah version will start around 1,400 Canadian, which is roughly $1,040 US. The 10AH dual motor will be around 1,500 Canadian and 1,100 US dollars. And finally, the 15AH version of the dual motor will be around 1,600 Canadian, or just under 1,200 US. We're usually 10 to 15% cheaper than our closest competitors, and you can expect this trend to continue with the 2020 models. Alright, thank you very much for watching our video, guys. For more information on the 2020 model, please subscribe here, and you can expect pre-orders to open sometime in November of this year. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.